efficient, disciplined, people-friendly, and well-compensated security forces within an overall security architecture.
To back up these words, 43 days later, President Muhammadu Buhari effected a change in the hierarchy of the armed forces when he relieved the service chiefs appointed by his predecessor and appointed those who implement his vision of a safe and secure Nigeria, with Gabriel Olonishakin as Chief of Defense Staff, Tukur Buratai as Chief of Army Staff, Sadiq Abubakar as Chief of Air Staff, and Ibok Ete Ibas as Chief of Naval Staff, taking over the military architecture. However, they could not help the president in fulfilling his promise of leading from the front and rescuing the abducted Chibok girls. Though they rescued some, about 100 were still in captivity when they left office, while under their watch, other students, though later rescued, were abducted by Boko Haram in Government Girls Science Technical College in Dapchi, Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, Katsina State, and an Islamic school in the same Katsina State. These were in addition to the farmer herder crisis in Adamawa, Benue, Nasarawa, banditry and cattle rustling in Katsina, Kaduna, and Zamfara that displaced millions and resulted in the loss of lives, property, and livelihood, as well as the continued Boko Haram onslaught in the northeast and pipeline vandalism and oil bunkering, as well as secessionists in the south. Against this backdrop was continued calls by Nigerians for the removal of the service chiefs.
Nigerians who are calling for them to be removed, most of them are calling from the perspective of being ordinary concerned citizens. They don't understand, the intricacies and things involved. All they want is they want the problems to be solved, regardless of how the problems are solved. They don't know the capabilities and capacities of our military services.
Since the change of guard with General Lucky Irabo as Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru, who died in a plane crash, and succeeded by Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya as Chief of Army Staff, Air Marshal Isiaka Mao as Chief of Air Staff, and Vice Admiral Awal Gambo as Chief of Naval Staff, more schools have been attacked, including the Nigerian Military School, the Abuja-Kaduna train, the Kaduna Airport, the Presidential Guard, a police post, the invasion of Kuje Prison, amidst kidnappings and attacks on places of worship, beheading of serving officers by secessionists, and a sit-at-home order by IPOB. The military, though, says they have recorded some successes, especially as the 2023 general elections draw near.
We have made huge progress, and of course there still remains a long haul to go, and we will do everything possible such that the state of peace will incrementally improve, leading up to, of course, next year, that that there's a very important exercise that the nation is going to go through.
Other recorded success include the killing of Abu Musab al-Burnawi and other top Boko Haram commanders, as well as the surrender of thousands of their foot soldiers, the sentencing of 2 soldiers who killed a Muslim cleric, and the confession of a pastor who kidnapped a priest. Under President Muhammadu Buhari, telecommunication services were shut down in the northeast and northwest as troops battled Boko Haram insurgents, bandits, and cattle rustlers. Also, the budgetary allocations to security sector rose by over 100% since 2015, from less than 1 trillion naira to 2.41 trillion naira, leading to the acquisition of equipment across military formations in the country, including Super Tucano jets and armored tanks, amongst others.
You are seeing our soldiers running into Cameroon. When the ammunition gets finished, they drop their gun and they run into Cameroon. And they confess and they go on video from there. And the high command was threatening them.
As the elections draw near and the Buhari presidency keeps trying to keep its constitutional mandate of protecting lives and property, the security sector is one that the next administration will do well to prepare for. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
All right, thank you very much, Victor. Well, today, earlier in the day, the President, Muhammadu Buhari himself, addressed the issue of security or insecurity, depending on where you're looking at it from. In his very final, he did say that, very final Independence Day address to the country. Let's take a listen.
In order to address insecurity, we worked methodically in reducing insurgency in the northeast, militancy in the Niger Delta, ethnic and religious tensions in some sections of Nigeria along with other problems threatening our country. As we continue to de-escalate the security challenges that confronted us at the inception of this administration, newer forms alien to our country began to manifest, especially in the areas of kidnappings, molestation, killings of innocent citizens, banditry, all of which are being addressed by our security forces. I share the pains Nigerians are going through, and I assure you that your resilience and patience will not be in vain as this administration continues to reposition as well as strengthen the security agencies to enable them to deal with all forms of security challenges. At the inception of this administration in 2015, I provided the funding requirements of the security agencies, which was also improved in my second tenure in 2019 to enable them to surmount security challenges. We will continue on this path until our efforts yield the desired results.
President Muhammadu Buhari earlier on in the day today speaking about the state of security under his administration in his final Independence Day broadcast. Of course, the Channels Forum, we've got two hashtags for it. There's hashtag Channels Forum and hashtag Nigeria at 62. So as we begin the conversations, would love to hear from you. But let's start off from our Maiduguri studios at the heart of the insurgency that this present administration met when it took over in 2015. And from there, we're being joined by Major General Chris Musa, the theater commander of Operation Hardin Kai, the Joint Task Force in the Northeast. General, thank you for your time. Good evening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
The situation now is that it appears as if a lot of attention has shifted away from the Northeast to other theaters across the country. But it does appear as if there are still some challenges, even though it's been a long time since this has been on the cards, but there are still some challenges in that area. What can you tell us about that today?
Yeah, thank you very much. Happy 62nd Independence Anniversary, Nigeria. Yeah, as we're all aware as humans, challenges are natural. There will always be challenges, and it is exactly what we do with the challenges that matter. I'm sure from the reports we have been receiving, the Northeast is getting better by the day, and we keep on improving on what we're doing. We remain focused to ensure that we achieve the mandate.
It does appear as if, of course, as you said, you have tackled some of the challenges that you met. But then it does appear as if some of those challenges, having been tackled, have brought about new challenges. Let me give you an example. Many of the areas that have been recovered from the insurgents, there is the challenge of holding them against the insurgents and allowing the people who were previously resident there to be able to go back there and resume their lives. That's a new challenge that came from recovering the territory. How are you coping with that?
We're doing pretty well. As it is, I think our greatest challenge now is the climate. Now we have the rains and we have floods. We have flood all over. Normally people don't really understand that places like Maiduguri, you will have a situation with floods. So a lot of the areas now that are cleared, floods won't even allow you to get in there.
So where are you keeping the people who would ordinarily be there at this point in time? And how are you ensuring
they're all pulled out.
How are you ensuring that the insurgents don't use this flood to get back in?
No, it's been very difficult for them because we are actually making sure that we take over their logisticians. We realize that those people that still trade with them are the ones that actually keep them going. So we have adopted strategies now to deny them contact with their logisticians, and we pick them on regular basis, and that has denied them the ability to get logistics to carry on with their operations. And then while we provide corridors where we pull out those ones that are willing to come out, and then we bring them out quickly.
How are you able to tackle, because I remember when I spoke to you much earlier on this year, you did say that one of the challenges you were facing and you were trying very hard to tackle is this hit and run thing where they stay at the border areas between Nigeria and Cameroon, between Nigeria and Chad, between Nigeria and Niger. They come in, they carry out these attacks, and then they run back to the border areas, which makes it difficult for you to be able to tackle them once and for all. Has that situation changed now?
Yeah, it has improved now. We have improved our cooperation and conduct of operations with the multinational joint task force. That's having Cameroon, Chad, and Niger together, and then with Operation Emergence 4 from Cameroon. So the borders now are properly manned, and whenever they try to fizzle out to those areas, the forces there take care of them.
When you have, because what you pointed out is that these days in that area, because they can't really go after the hard targets anymore, they go after softer targets, markets, schools, hospitals, and places where, you know, you don't expect there to be too much security. And then you talked about connivance between the local communities and the insurgents. So those twin issues, has the situation changed now?
Yeah, that's what I told you. The connivance is from the logisticians that are making money from the challenge. And so what we are doing now is we have adopted measures. We monitor the markets where they buy these things and then follow up to where they deliver them. And then we arrest those ones with the items they've taken. So the terrorists can't get this logistics, so it makes it very difficult for them. Now, their ability to move as freely as they used to is curtailed because our operations are everywhere. In our system is to kill a gorilla, you fight like a gorilla. So we have adopted that system. And because we're better trained, we're able to take them out as quickly as possible.
That leaves something else on the horizon, which is that you're not able to hear me. Are you able to hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now, yes, I can hear you now.
You had told us earlier that a lot of them were surrendering to you, along with the families. So it presented a logistic issue because you now had to keep them, you had to process them, you had to separate the ones who are actual insurgents from just family members who may be referred to as victims. And when I spoke to you earlier on this year, at that time, you said you had more than 50,000 of them in your custody. My assumption now is that that number has probably increased.
80,000 now.
So how are you keeping this 80,000 and preventing the more hardened ones amongst them from returning?
We have, the strategy now is an all government activity. The military, the Operation Haram, working together with the state government. On the point of impact was when the terrorist comes out from the bush, he reports to the closest unit. The commander takes him with his men and then he's profiled. We disarm him, profile him. The state government provides the transport that they take them into Maiduguri where we have the 3 camps. The 4th camp is being constructed now. So that's how we handle it. We are not directly the ones in charge of the administration and management. The state government takes care of them. We simply make sure that we're able to identify who are the fighters and who are the non-fighters, and we separate them and then put them at different camps. The state government takes care of their management and administration. So we take care of the perimeter security. Nobody from out comes in, nobody from in goes on to disturb the operation.
I cannot but ask you about that seminal place, which some people would say brought all of this to... can you hear me, General? Are you able to hear me? It would appear as if we're having some difficulty with his audio. But if you can hear me, I wanted to ask you about Chibok, where all of this started. What is the situation in Chibok now? The report we played before this discussion shows that almost 100 or so of those girls are still in custody, almost more than 8 years on after they were kidnapped. They are still in the custody of insurgents. But in the town itself, the town of Chibok, What's the situation there? Because, again, it's supposed to be a landmark.
No, Chibok now, Chibok is back fully. Chibok is free. People are back to their farms, and we're ensuring that they conduct we're sure of getting bumper harvest this time around. This year alone, we've been able to rescue about 10 Chibok. The 10th Chibok girl was just recovered 2 days ago with her twins baby. She just gave birth about a week ago. So we are making sure that we put all efforts to recover all the girls. I know as at the last count, we had about 98 of them. So getting this last one now means there are 97 that are still unaccounted for. But we are sure with our operations, we're going to get those ones we can get out.
My final question, General, will be on looking ahead. Now, we have talked about the situation as it is and as it was, but now looking ahead, if you're to project up at least between now and the handover to the next administration at the end of May next year, a period of about 8 or so months, what are we likely to see in that theater of conflict there? What do you expect will happen?
My expectation is that our operations will ensure that we diminish their capabilities to such an extent that elections can hold successfully. But to achieve that, we need to do a lot. And remember, I told you the last time that the kinetic effort is just 25%. The non-kinetic effort is 75%, which means we have to have the government presence, provision of infrastructure, all these other aspects, everybody playing his own role to make it possible.
Well, we can only hope that that indeed is the case and that when elections can take place, the people can return to some level of normalcy in their lives. But at the moment, let us thank you, Major General Chris Musa, Theater Commander, Operation Hardin Kai, and best of luck to the troops. Even as we celebrate independence, we know that they're out there guarding us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.